Hello and welcome everyone to an Operation Market Garden Shoutcast. For those of you who don't know what OMG Mod is, it is a persistency mod for Company of Heroes. It's been around for a lot of years, and you may know and love Company of Heroes already, but have never heard of persistency mod before. And basically what they are mods where you build a company, and then whenever you play a game with that company inside the mod against other players, the units who gain veterancy persist. So from game to game, your company stays intact. You can, of course, tweak it, add new units, remove units you don't want to have anymore, but you can actually watch your company start to develop and grow over time as you play more games and hone your build. And get used to the doctrine that you've selected and unlock more abilities. So they're a really cool kind of mod. There's a pretty hardcore community of people who play persistency mods like Operation Market Garden, and the mod is pretty active right now. You can usually count on getting a decent number of games per day depending on the time. So if you haven't heard of it before, please come on, check it out, and hopefully what you see in this Shoutcast will inspire you to come play a few games. The URL where you can learn more about OMG Mod and maybe download it and create an account and start playing is up in the top left of your screen right now, www.omgmod.net. And yeah, so without further ado, and with all that kind of preamble out of the way, today we're going to be looking at a 3v3 that took place just a few days ago between some pretty familiar names in the OMG community, and I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard it was a really good game, well worth watching. It took place on the map that you're looking at right now. It's called Tanteville. Really popular game, not only in OMG but in other persistency mods for Company of Heroes. And yeah, without any more kind of hesitation, let's start this thing on and see what happens. So for persistency mods like OMG, typically all players will come on the map at the same time with call-ins that they have kind of selected and carefully built, you know, different doctrines and that kind of thing. So on the left here we've got Nikola, we just call him Niko in the OMG community. We got UKPowerMax, one of the leadership figures who has helped make the mod possible over the years. Another player named Stormtrout. Then on the allied side we've got Hamster, as he's known. We've got Shabtajus, and we have Skaffa. His name here is Walter, but everyone knows him as Skaffa. One of the, if not the best players in the mod, and someone who usually will dictate how the game unfolds and force the other team to have to respond. So what you're looking at right now is kind of that all-important first stage of the game where people are trying to stake out some starting positions, claim some territory, get a feel for where the other team might be going or where they might be. Yeah, every player in this game has built a company. They have a certain amount of resources they can spend. So it's kind of a game of attrition. And while you might have some advantage for being really aggressive in the start and pushing hard, usually you're not trying to win a game in the first 10-15 minutes because, of course, the other team has all of their units still to call on, and if you play a little too risky early on, you're going to have a bad time. So what's happening here, which is kind of nice, is the allies are playing as a team. As you can see, they've all kind of decided to push one flank of the map together. It's not going super great, largely because Stormtrout's got some really heavy elite infantry in the Knight's Cross, and the allies have kind of all been bunched up in this, big ball enemy unit, and they're getting kind of hit from multiple flanks. And usually the team that does a better job surrounding their opponent and making it difficult for them to know where the enemy is coming from one particular direction is going to be the team that does better. But things are actually looking a little dicey for the Allies. Of course, they are losing a lot of infantry, even though their infantry is significantly cheaper. This flank was not a good one. It's got to be said. This didn't go well. Niko's infantry blob is relatively unscathed. UKPowerMax, who probably took the most losses, still has, you know, some full health units on the line, and Stormtrout, who had a really excellent flank with his KCH, has lost basically nothing, and already the Allies are on their back foot. If, you know, I'm them right now, I'm thinking about abandoning this side of the map for the moment, because obviously the enemy is figured out that's where they're going and is well set up, and probably going to pivot, if I were them, my attention over to this side of the map where there is no enemy presence, and you can probably gain a lot more ground a lot faster. We'll see if that's what they do. It looks like for the moment the Allies are not ready to give up this flank, and they want to keep pushing. The Axis are falling back a little bit to kind of reorient themselves, grab some cover, get things set up once again. The Allies have a long walk back from their various deployment areas to kind of regroup. The Axis are setting up healing, and it actually looks like the Axis team might be expecting the Allies to switch sides after how badly that push went, but instead the Allies are not switching sides, and they're going to push on, which we'll see how that goes. Shabtajus has decided he's going to just push alone. Skaffa very wisely in chat saying, hey, wait a second, you know, there's no point going in there by yourself yet, hold on. You know, usually in mods like OMG, it's far, far better to attack together and as a team with overwhelming force versus to just kind of, you know, lose your units piecemeal for no real gain. We've got UKPowerMax with some Ostfront veterans sitting in a healing house, which is a doctrine ability that his Scorched Earth faction gets. He's going to be really hard to get out of there. And kind of once again we're seeing the same thing we saw at the start of the game, which is the Allies kind of getting caught in a ball and having to fight on a really wide front that kind of encircles them. And so they can't really focus pushing one part of this front without getting hit from the side. Versus the Axis has the advantage of coming from so many different directions that, you know, they can cause huge damage. So right off the bat, we're 6 minutes into this game and things are not looking good for the Allies. Now this game was sent to me by one of the Allied players, so I have to imagine that things turn around. I don't suspect they would have sent it if this just continues to be the Axis absolutely manhandling the Allies. So we're probably in for some kind of cool reversal, maybe multiple reversals. But at the moment, if I'm watching this game, or if I'm in this game, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a one-sided massacre, which is something that happens in this mod occasionally, depending on who's playing and how things go. Allies just lost Sherman, not a huge, catastrophic loss, but definitely kind of a sign of how things have been going in this game so far. Like I said earlier, you're not usually going to see games end in the first 15-20 minutes just by the way map control works and the fact that everyone has, you know, full companies to call on and lots of units left to lose at this stage of the game. But it's not a good thing if, you know, 7 minutes in you're trapped basically outside your spawn and the Axis have lost almost nothing and your team has lost many full platoons of units. So yeah, not the best start by any stretch of the imagination. The Axis control the town. They are there in no small amount of force. They also control this central, really important field, and while the Allies are moving in to contest this left side of the map, it's not only, you know, a trickier part of the map and a less valuable part of the map to hold. They don't even really hold it that convincingly. All they've got here is a tank destroyer, some rifles, no real AT aside from this tank destroyer to speak of. So yeah, things are looking bad. Not the best. Not the best. The Axis don't even really need to hold the town for now because the focus is here. And it's kind of been a heavy infantry game up until now.
Enemy unit down.
Usually you would see maybe a few more support weapons. I mean, we've got a few MGs, we've got a sniper, but no ATGs from either side. Anti-tank guns. And so this is a big move from Skaffa. He's probably looking at this game and going, okay, things aren't going well. Everywhere we've tried to push and concerted effort has been a disaster. I need to shake things up. I need to get some kind of momentum for my team, so I'm going to go deep up the flanks and force the Axis players to respond. They have to come address what I'm doing, and so that's going to draw their attention away from the front line. And even if I end up losing a bunch of rifles, hopefully what I do here will disrupt the front line enough that it gives an opening for my team to start pushing. And that's exactly what his team is doing. Now, they're moving a bit slow. In an ideal world, maybe Shabtajus and Hamster would have coordinated their push to start a little bit sooner so that the Axis players wouldn't have been able to kind of in concert go and deal with Skaffa. Also, I'm not a huge fan of the fact that they're moving left instead of into the town, which, as you can see, is really not defended right now because of the amount of force they had to devote to addressing what Skaffa was doing. I don't think there's a whole lot of value in the other two players moving to defend this, considering there's nothing here to defend, but at the very least the line has shaken up a little bit, and now the Axis team are kind of overcompensating for Skaffa's attack, and you know, are setting up a defensive line back here, and in doing so abandoning the city, which is progress of a kind. But yeah, I would say it would have been ideal if I think Hamster and Shabtajus had pushed in this direction while Skaffa was pushing it this way. So we're kind of in this period of time now where there's just been a big push. Both sides kind of lost a lot. The front line got disrupted a little bit, and now teams are kind of readjusting their positions, figuring out where the next battle is going to take place. We've got Hamster way up here on the flank, not doing a whole lot right now, and kind of again it's Skaffa taking the initiative and leading another assault. This time he's got Shabtajus with him. Shabtajus is running some upgraded riflemen. I think these are mechanized infantry, and they've been equipped with some automatic weapons, which makes them more effective at close range. This sniper from Shabtajus faded in a few Grens, which is nice to see. Things are a little bit dicier over here, though. UKPowerMax is running a unit called Osprey Veterans. This is a really, really strong unit. It's, I think, exclusive to Scorched Earth, which is one of the 3 doctrines that the Panzer Elite faction has in OMG. And they're just a really tough-as-nails elite infantry unit that can be upgraded with G43s, and they have a full profile. As you can see, one of these units has almost 20 kills, and it's not even been 12 minutes. So now we're seeing a pretty decent push.
Enemy unit down.
I think Shabtajus is kind of leading the charge on this one, but he's got support from Skaffa. Hamster's here we've got a sniper, we've got lots of infantry, we've got a tank, so this could actually do some damage, because right now it looks like, other than this Geschutzwagen, it's really only UKPowerMax who's trying to hold the town. The Axis all got kind of pulled out to the left here, back when Skaffa did that big push, and that's kind of opened things up and given the Allies an opportunity now to push the town. And one thing that's really key about the town on this map is it's really, really important. If you take and or hold or challenge for this position on the map, it's really hard for the enemy not to kind of deal with that. One thing I'm going to quickly do while we're going is I'm just going to lower the volume a little bit. Cool. Sorry about that. We're back in though. So obviously the Axis do not want to lose this town. They are going to pour their resources into it. Niko, who tends to not be the best player when it comes to supporting his team, even he is kind of realizing that he should probably do something here. You know, not just let 3 players team up on 2 of his teammates. And then he gets distracted and decides to go off in this direction. Skaffa's just going to kite him, make him waste his time, while his other units and the rest of his team kind of manhandle his allies. With that said, though, the Axis are not doing a bad job at all of holding this ground, and I actually don't think, based on what they've got here, they're in too much danger of the Allies taking the town. As you can see, Skaffa even pointing out that, you know, his company's not super well designed to deal with the epic firepower of the Ostfront veterans. Luckily, Shabtajus has got a sniper. Really, really good use of a sniper to focus on taking out high-cost, high-value infantry like the Ostfront veterans, although he's about to have to deal with a massive counter-sniper call-in, and I think his sniper is toast here. Yeah, there's just no way he's going to survive. Yep, and Shabtajus is forced to try and retreat with the sniper. It easily gets gunned down. That's a big blow to the Allies, who are already having just not a great game. It's got to be said. This is not how you draw it up on the board when you're playing Allies in OMG and you're thinking about how the game's going to go and how you'd like it to go. You wouldn't write this script. Yeah. So we can't see what the kills are on these Ostfront veterans yet because they're in the building. Are they getting out? Yes. But yeah, one of them's up to 25, the other one's up to 7. They have paid for their cost. They've kind of shown us here how powerful this unit can be. The Allies are kind of back to where they were at the beginning of the game, stuck in this kind of right-hand sector, not really anything going on. They have some territory over here on the left, but it's, you know, lightly held, and it's about to get gunned down by UKPowerMax, who seems to be having a great game so far. Yeah, if you're the Allies right now, you're frustrated because, you know, clearly you don't have map control. Clearly you've lost more by far than your opponents, and not only, you know, are both of those things concerning, but things don't look like there's no light at the end of the tunnel right now. There's no indication that, as bad as things have gone to this point, they're going to get any better. So yeah, if I'm the Axis right now, I'm feeling pretty good, and if I'm the Allies, I'm thinking maybe this isn't our day. An ineffective push here from Shab against 2 Shrekgrens. I'm not sure what he expected to happen there. He's trying to kite them. If this works, I'll be surprised. I don't think even Niko is the type of person who's going to get baited into chasing a Sherman from the front with Shreks. And I don't think it was worth the hit on Shab's Sherman's HP to get those inconsequential hits off. Axis bringing on more infantry, some minesweepers to kind of consolidate their hold on things. They're doing a really good job. Actually, Stormtrout in particular is doing a really good job. Actually, and UKPowerMax in terms of using scouting vehicles to get lots of line of sight. And maybe one of the things that's helped the Axis do so well up to this point is the fact that they've kind of always had a pretty good understanding of where the Allies might be pushing, by virtue of the fact they're using their scouting really well. Something that doesn't get talked about enough in persistency mods like OMG, but has a huge impact, is line of sight and visibility, knowing where to move your units and when to move your units based on the positions and movements of your enemies is a huge advantage. Again, you're working with finite companies from each player, so units are not limitless. You don't have, especially in the early start or early portions of a game, you don't have tons of units and tons of pop cap to work with. So really key that you are making a good use of the units you do have on the field, and scouting helps you do that. So really cool kind of to see the Axis working the field with these scouting vehicles, keeping an eye on things. And if I turn on the Fog of War and switch over to the Axis for a second, you can kind of see the advantage. Oh, they just lost an armored car there. But you can kind of see the advantage and the huge line of sight that these Jeeps and vehicles get. Anyway, back to the action. Again, Axis are doing a really good job of working together, overwhelming the Allies whenever they try to get anything going with forces from multiple directions. In comparison, the Allies are really struggling to get anything going. It's never a good sign if you're fighting multiple players of the enemy team, and as you can see with Skaffa here, he's kind of on his own. Shabtajus has an ATG back here with barely any health, but not really doing much. And the only thing Hamster's got in the vicinity is this mortar with no kills and a few riflemen. So there's a lot of stuff that is kind of not helping. Just kind of sitting back and around when, as you can see, the Axis are bringing overwhelming force to key fights, which is not good. And okay, here we go. Here's something interesting. Shabtajus has brought on a Pershing. A heavy tank used well can be a big advantage to your team, because in a persistency mod like this, you can repair, which effectively increases the impact that an individual tank or vehicle can have on a game considerably. And because you are working with a finite number of resources when you build your company, anything that allows you to get multiple or extended use out of a single unit is really good. And it looks like that has kind of put the Axis on their back foot a little bit. They're still pushing strong over here. These Ostfront veterans continue to rack up just an absurd amount of kills. But the arrival of the Pershing and the fact that the only vehicle that, or the only thing that could really do any meaningful damage to it is currently going unnoticed or unused by the Axis, means that they're getting some momentum. This is kind of the first time the Allies have made meaningful progress on either flank, and I'm not sure what the Axis. Well, I guess the Axis are doing a little bit here. They're setting up a pack. They're moving up some support weapons. They're coming in from this flank. Niko not doing a great job with his P4. I was talking a few moments ago about how important it is to get a lot of use out of your tanks. Here's an example of not getting anything out of your tank in the form of a P4 with 2 kills and being almost dead. At the very least, it isn't dead, but yeah, definitely a little bit of a concern. So let's kind of take stock of where things are at. Skaffa is getting ready for another kind of big push up this exposed flank, which is potentially going to be good. at kind of breaking some of the Fortress Europe that's going on over here. Hamster is looking really light on his pop usage right now. He's only got 18 pop on the field, which is not good. Usually in OMG Mod, at any point in the battle, unless you've just lost a lot of units very quickly, you want to be using all of, if not most, most of, if not all of your pop. Because if you're not, that essentially means that you're handcuffing yourself unnecessarily, and that can leave your allies really exposed. So I also don't know if I agree with the decision of both of Skaffa's teammates to once again abandon where they were to far too late follow him on his flanking expedition. Usually in a game like this, the advantage of a player making these kinds of really cool flanks is it opens up opportunities for their teammates to push in the direction that the Axis have had to withdraw units from to address it. So I would argue that by his teammates taking all of their feet off the gas over here, it's actually going to make it harder for Skaffa's flank to succeed, because now the Axis won't have to worry about the Allies pushing in this direction and can just turn everything they have to address them. So that's a bit concerning. Other thing that's a bit concerning right now is Hamster's running only a portion of his cap, or his population cap. Shab is better, but again, not a whole lot of units from Shab right now. Just an MG, a rifle squad, and a Pershing, which means he's not going to be able to apply a tremendous amount of pressure. But maybe it'll work out. Who knows? Meanwhile, the Axis, I'm also seeing some things that are a little concerning here. Obviously, UKPowerMax has been having a great game. His Mar's been getting kills. His Ostfront veterans have just been wrecking face, which is great. He's set up healing houses, or I guess he had a healing house and he's since lost it, but he'll get another one anytime he wants. And he's brought on healing, so he's clearly bringing things to the table. Stormtrout, I talked a little bit about the value of some of the scouting that he's done, and now he's got a sniper, and he's got a lot of infantry and support weapons kind of holding things down, which is nice. So kudos to those two players, but Niko, 2 P4s on the map is not the best for his team. He's only got 10 kills between them. He's about to lose this one. Not a whole lot in the way of infantry that are going to meaningfully hold territory. So, yeah, a bit of a problem that this Axis team, which is doing a pretty good job overall, kind of has one player coasting a little bit, and just kind of not making choices that probably are for the best interest of the team. So yeah, if you're ever in this situation and you're playing on a team that is doing a pretty good job, but is definitely getting some pushes from some very good allied players, in this case Skaffa is a good example, don't get caught in a situation where you're relying on your teammates to do all the hard work of holding territory, maybe they have units that aren't as cool, but are definitely really useful, and make sure you're also bringing on some frontline infantry and some support weapons, or this could happen. And this is actually probably the nicest push we've seen from the Allies. They're attacking from 3 different directions. The Axis have had to really kind of do everything they can to turn this back, and they can't, because they're just getting pushed from so many directions, and one of their teammates had 2 P4s on, one of which died after doing almost nothing. So yeah, really, really nice push from the Allies. And how did it start? Well, one player threw the enemy team off by, instead of just attacking in the same direction over and over, going deep up the flank, forcing them to respond. And when they did, Shab and Hamster did the thing that I think didn't happen the first time this kind of maneuver was tried, and they pushed from different directions, which is really, really cool to see. And now we've got Hamster dropping RRs in the backfield. He is a very, very good player when it comes to using RRs and keeping them alive, which is really important. And while the Axis have held on to the town, they lost a lot in that last push. The Pershing from Shabtajus did a really good job. He's probably now going to bring on some repair crews to get its health back up so that it can continue to get value out of that unit. And the Axis are ostensibly going to be pushing back, or at least they should be. I'm not sure why all these units were sitting there for that long. But it looks like we've got a ton of infantry coming in from Niko, given that the last push from the Allies was heavily infantry focused. It's not a bad idea. There's a lot of munitions coming on the field, though, which means if he loses all of these units, that's a huge blow to his company or his remaining company composition. And I also would question bringing on so many Shreks when the primary AT threat or tank threat on the field is a Pershing. Unless you get side or rear shots, Shreks are not going to do great against a Pershing. And oh, here we go. As you can see, I think the Allies have kind of figured out who they can target here to get a lot of kills. A very good strategy in OMG is to look for players who are either deliberately or accidentally leaving themselves exposed and focusing them down so that you can wipe out large sections of their company, and then, you know, come the mid-late game, then it'll be a 3v2 essentially, because that player will be out of units, and your team ostensibly or likely would have many units left because you've been fighting an overwhelming force against just a single player. So the Allies, their plan is to focus, it sounds like, on Niko. I don't think that's going to happen at the moment because Stormtrout is supporting him. But UKPowerMax is a little exposed, and maybe they thought Niko was out here on the left, that's where his unit started, and while they won't find him because he's over here, they will get some vanilla Pigrens. So here we go, we have another concentrated push from the Allies. They're doing a better job actually sticking together. Again, if you're going to do a big push up a flank like this, you either want to do it all together or have one player do it while the others push somewhere else. You don't want to do it where one player flanks alone and the other two kind of just meander around uselessly. So this is actually looking pretty good. Shabtajus is taking some risks with his Pershing here. He got lucky that wasn't a full pen. He would have lost his Pershing. And he could still lose his Pershing. Oh, he got saved by Hamster. So not the best micro, but he gets lucky. The Pershing hopefully will go and get repaired and get to rack up many more kills before the game's done. And here comes Niko's blob. Now, if I remember right, Skaffa had a strafing run. It seems like he's used it already. Does Hamster have one? No. So that's pretty good. Although Niko has kind of run this blob into an MG. UKPowerMax also got a little bit exposed, but it should be okay. Shabtajus is really playing risky with this Pershing. He might not have repairs available because if he did, I don't think he'd be taking this risk. Just one lucky Shrek hit would have killed the Pershing. So this Pershing could have died 2 or 3 times here, and I don't know if it was skill that prevented it from dying. I think it was mostly luck. That one deflection on the Martyr, the bounce on the Shrek, either one of those could have been a huge blow. With that said, it is nice that he is not pulling the Pershing back to here and then bringing on 12 pop worth of repairs and spending the next 5-10 minutes of the game with 20 plus pop tied up in units that can't fight or add any value. So I will say it is nice to see that's not happening. With that said, probably could benefit with a little bit of time spent repairing the Pershing, so that's not one hit from death. One thing I haven't talked about is in OMG Mod there is something called attrition in terms of I think it's called attrition in terms of repairs. So basic repair units like engineers and pioneers, while they can repair your tank, your max HP pool for your tank actually goes down the more it gets repaired. And while there are some units that are more efficient at repairing, specialized repair units, every unit that repairs to some degree does lower the max HP of your tank. So you'll actually see over time, the more this Pershing gets repaired, the more damage it will take from any individual source. So you do get more use out of a vehicle if you repair it, but you get diminishing returns over time. Anyway, so the Axis have kind of reoriented themselves. Niko has done a pretty good job with all his infantry blob of reasserting some map control, some map presence, which is good. We also have pretty good use of low man or low health squads from Stormtrout. He's keeping these Shreks and LMGs on the field despite the fact that they're down to 1 or 2 men, which is good because you obviously get full use of the Shrek itself even if the squad only has 1 person left. So usually a good idea not to just retreat them. The one risk you run is, this being a persistency mod, you do get benefit from keeping the units that gain veterancy from battle to battle, and so losing those units entirely means losing a veteran unit not only for that game but for games to come as well. But it's always nice when players don't let that deter them from trying to get as much as they can out of their units and trying to win the game. Probably noticed by this point we have a KT on the field from Stormtrout. I like this unit choice for him right now because he does have a lot of infantry on the field. He also has a sniper to deal with support weapons, so the big pop sink that is the King Tiger can be a dicey choice if your team doesn't have a lot of frontline infantry, doesn't have a lot of mobility, doesn't have a lot of ability to deal with different threats. So nice that Stormtrout is making sure that he's not just running around with an artillery piece, a sniper, and a King Tiger, and leaving all the frontline fighting and the map control units to his teammates. He's got a pretty good balance there. Meanwhile, though, allies are pushing into town, and UKPowerMax has made them pay dearly using a special unit in OMG called the Sturmpanzer. It's kind of like an AVRE for PE, and as you just saw there, he used it to huge effect and got a lot of value out of it. Might seem like only 7 kills, but 7 kills against airborne that have been upgraded with recoilless rifles, that's a big deal. And it's looking like he's probably going to nearly single-handedly wipe out, looks like he did, 2 recoilless rifle squads, which is an awesome trade. And these Osprey veterans have 38 kills, which is really cool. Anyway, I think we're about to see the ineffectiveness of fighting Pershing with Shreks, but let's quickly check in on the left here. Stormtrout using his balanced kind of company on the field to really give Skaffa a little bit of a hard time here. Skaffa called down a lot of RRs probably to deal with the KT, but he's not going to have a lot of success against LMG Gren's sniper and the KT. Meanwhile, over here, Niko's doing a really good job dealing with the rest of Skaffa's army, which is mostly vanilla rifles, but he's not microing away from nades, so he's taking a lot of unnecessary damage. Skaffa's kind of fighting 2 almost 3 of the axis by himself. Hamster's kind of just working the periphery. Not sure that ours are necessarily needed up here. And Shabtajus is still microing the Pershing. But I think the one thing I'm seeing from this game, and I honestly don't know if the Allies win. I have a feeling they might because it was sent to me by an Allied player. But the one thing, ooh, there goes the Pershing. Finally stopped being lucky. But the one thing I'm definitely seeing is a lot of the burden of being the front line and taking the losses and setting the momentum of the game and taking initiative has been on Skaffa. And his teammates are not playing as helpfully as I think they could. Yeah, everywhere you go and there's, you know, a lot of infantry kind of forcing the Axis to respond, it's looking time and time again like Walter/Skaffa's units, which I think is not the best. Let's switch over to the Allied perspective actually though, just to kind of see what things look like. So I've switched over to Hamster's point of view. He's got a sniper back here. I don't know if that's the direction I would be sending it. He's got an ATG behind a hedge, not ideal. And meanwhile, once again, the Axis have kind of got a commanding position. They control the town, pretty much unquestioned. They did a great push down in this direction that they're trying to get away from. Skaffa giving them a hard time on the way. Actually, this sniper is in a lot of trouble right now. Actually, Stormtrout in general is in a lot of trouble right now. He kind of overextended, or his team abandoned him. Niko trying to come back to help him now, but Niko not really paying attention to this Jeep, who could use better map awareness. Luckily, Stormtrout has an idea that there's a Jeep up there. Oh, this is going to be really bad. Oh, yeah. Great play from Niko there, bringing his infantry blob and decimating Skaffa's expensive, but also really valuable Arquebus rifles. Stormtrout's sniper just got caught out. Nice job from Skaffa. Oh, and great nades. Okay, this was a really decisive push then. It didn't look like the Allies were doing a lot of work there, but a kind of a really cool flank from Skaffa coming in from this direction. Yes, he lost his RRs down here, but did a ton of damage to Niko, who is now fleeing, which might be the right idea, given the overwhelming Allied presence here. Meanwhile, back in the town, still a stranglehold from UKPowerMax. That doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. With that said, I think UKPowerMax probably could have come and helped sooner.
Enemy unit down.
He's got a lot of units not really doing anything right now. Only 2 of whom are actually healing. The other 2 are repairing for some reason. Full health unit sitting over here almost. Martyr sitting back here. A lot of this stuff probably could have helped. Maybe it wouldn't have saved the KT, but it might have saved the sniper. He's been having a great game so far, so I'm hesitant to say too much negative, but I think there was a little bit of getting caught sitting while your teammates got triple teamed here in the middle. With that said, kind of one of the things that I feared could happen with that giant call-in of LMG Grens and Shrek Grens from Niko is that was a massive munitions expenditure to call on. He didn't really have anything that he could afford to lose in that call on. There was no kind of meat grinder infantry. So now, of course, we're probably going to see a lot of vanilla infantry from him. Also not sure why we're seeing repair specialized Sturm Pioneers coming on, considering his 2 P4s from earlier are dead. Maybe he has plans to bring on a lot more vehicles, but based on what the Allies are doing right now and the composition of the force they have on the field, I'm not sure what this is supposed to achieve. And worse, not only will they not be effective fighting this, but they will be draining his pop cap or holding up at least 10 of his pop, which means his team is going to have 10 less pop to deal with what the Allies have got. So, we got Skaffa calling for vision for his sniper. Where is it? Let's jump over and take a look. Okay, so it's Hamster's sniper. Yeah, it's funny. I definitely would say up to this point the Axis have had the upper hand. There's been some good moments for the Allies for sure. Killing the KT was great. Getting the sniper from Stormtrout was great. But this is bad. And again, I'm not. What are we trying to achieve here? If we're Niko, unclear. Why are we sending in munitions upgraded Pioneers into this blob where they're just going to get annihilated? What are Volksgrenadiers that are vanilla supposed to do against rifles and bars in cover, supported by mortars and the sniper? And why are we attacking here in the first place? There are 3 allies here, and his team is elsewhere. So why attack? If you see that there's overwhelming force there and you can't win, save your units. Live to fight another day. Move to somewhere else on the map where you can do some good instead of just throwing your units away. So just not great choices that maybe it doesn't seem like a big deal now if you're on the Axis side because the game's been going pretty well, but 10-15 minutes from now, if the game kind of keeps going on the track it's on right now, where the Allies are regaining the initiative, you're going to miss those units that you threw away. So just a good learning for whoever's watching, kind of good insight. We all make the mistake sometimes of getting tunnel vision and thinking the game's going really well and being a little bit more cavalier with our units. But one of the good things about watching a Shoutcast is, hindsight's 20/20, not a good move. And it could backfire in a big way. And yeah, so right now we've got the Allies making a big push. They've got tons of infantry on the field, which is great. They've got a good composition on the field. They've got mortars, they've got long-range AT, they've got mid-range AT in the form of RRs. Yeah, they're looking pretty good. They're a little bit light on anti-infantry, but the sheer weight of the infantry that they do have, and the fact that the the Axis don't have anything particularly deadly on the field, means that even just rifles with a few bars sprinkled in, supported by a sniper, are going to be able to do a pretty good job making the Axis pay. What do we got coming up here? We've got a bunch of P-Grens, so that'll be pretty good. This is a little bit better of a push from Niko, but again, why go alone? And why attack when the rest of your team isn't ready? What are you hoping to achieve? Why throw away all those units? He's now typing "good game, well played." And I don't think this game is over yet. Maybe he's feeling demoralized because he's lost a lot of his units, but his team I don't think is out of it yet. So yeah, a little puzzling. And he's been wiped out. Okay, so I guess that's why he was saying good game, well played. But I think just a good example of the importance of patience, the importance of staying focused. Even if a game starts to go a little bit poorly, don't just throw your stuff away. Work with your team, choose your moments, don't attack unless you need to, and I definitely would say this is not yet the stage where things are hopeless, but you can kind of see the strategy the Allies talked about 15-20 minutes ago coming to fruition. I think it was Shav who typed in chat, hey, let's focus on Niko. I guess knowing that he was a player who could be isolated and would fight even when he didn't have the support of his teammates, and then now he's out of the game, and from here on in it'll be a 3v2, which is definitely going to make things easier for the Allies and really, really challenging for the Axis. And it looks like the Axis might be out of the picture unless they've got more units to call in. I'm actually surprised the Axis don't have more to bring to the table. They seem to be doing fairly decently. One thing that is true, they do have a lot more expensive units than the Allies in general, so they can be out attrition if they're not trading super well. And yeah, it looks like they are out. Now with that said, I think the Allies are basically down to nothing as well, which is usually the sign of a good game. Shav in chat talking about what he perceives are counter companies. I don't know if I would describe what the Axis brought to the field here as counter companies. They're pretty standard. UKPowerMax has been playing this Scorched Earth company for at least a week or two now, and it is a very anti-infantry focused company, but it's not exclusively anti-infantry, and it's not a company I think anyone would say is unbalanced in terms of its composition. And so now the Allies actually have a bit of a problem because UKPowerMax has a lot of powerful units left. They're full health. I think this is maybe a little bit virtue of the fact that he did sit in the town a little bit too much while the Allies were pushing his teammates hard and while Niko was throwing his units away for no reason. But this game is still really winnable for the Axis. The sniper's a big problem from Hamster. It's been doing a pretty good job. It's got 23 kills. That's a big problem because while UKMax does have full health squads, you know, a sniper left unchecked can cause a whole lot of damage. I think if I were UKPowerMax right now, what I would be doing is splitting up my units to cap. They're going to get defeated if he doesn't do that. Something that I don't think OMG players sometimes think about enough is map control, especially in late game. Some of the players in the game are players who also play a different persistency mod called Europe in Ruins, where it's a little bit more punishing if you don't keep the map kind of in control, because your pop goes up or down based on how much map control. I actually think if UKPowerMax had split up his units the second he called them on instead of keeping them in this blob, he probably could have stopped this timer and could have easily won this game. The fact that he's kept them all together, there's really no need for it, because there's just 2 RRs here, there's 3 single-man infantry squads and a sniper. If he had sent 1 squad here, you know, 1 squad, actually let's see if we can pull up the map. We can't. Okay, so if you look down in the bottom left, if the second those units came on, he kind of went in all different directions and held territory. Could have won the game pretty easily. With that said, this was a great game. Really cool one. Definitely the first 10, maybe even 15 minutes, it looked like a one-sided... Oh, here we go. We get to see the map. A one-sided kind of slaughter for the Axis, overwhelming the Allies. That first push from the Allies up along this right-hand flank was kind of like a shooting gallery. Did not go well at all, and it just seemed for the first 10-15 minutes the Allies didn't really recover from that. But the strategy of deciding to focus on one player, and in this case, the Allies made the conscious choice to focus on OMG Niko, or Nikola as he was called in this game, paid off huge. They were able to, I guess, goad him into throwing away huge amounts of his units before his teammates could respond. And I think that kind of broke the back of the Axis morale. And of course, that critical decision of the Axis not to split up their units at the end and take back territory before things ended also was pretty pivotal. But I think probably, all things considered, that decision from the Allies was the one that turned things around and won the game. Yeah, so overall, I think it was a really cool game. Showed off a few different interesting units, a few interesting different doctrines. On the Allied front, we had 2 airborne players and an armored player, so we saw a lot of recoilless rifles. We saw Pershing, which is sweet. And then on the Axis side, we saw, I think, a terror player from Niko, Stormtrout, also terror player, but making use of a King Tiger, and then UKPowerMax running Scorched Earth, so we got to see Ostfront veterans and Sturmpanzers and Hummels. But yeah, really cool game. Hope you enjoyed watching it. Hopefully, maybe along the way, you saw some things that if you're a current OMG player, you can think about next time. The importance of scouting, sticking with your team, timing your flanks well, making sure if your teammate is flanking that you're not letting it go to waste, and then probably most pivotally of all, not throwing away your units in battles you can't win, and instead using vision and map awareness to make sure that when you do commit, the odds are in your favor. But overall, really exciting game, lots back and forth. Hope you enjoyed watching it. If you haven't yet checked out OMG Mod and you like Company of Heroes, you absolutely should. The URL is up here on the left. It can be a bit tricky if you've never installed a persistency mod for Company of Heroes before. It can be a bit tricky, but just jump into the Discord or post on the forums, and there's plenty of people who will be happy to help you. And that is it for this one. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Maybe I'll do a few more of these in the days and weeks to come. But until then, have a great one.